Welcome to the TBHK Iceberg. This is the pre-existing iceberg, but I've added new entries and we're going to be talking about new information as well. Enjoy! Tier 1, Ida Iro, the creator of TBHK, or I guess I should say creators because it's actually two women. Ida is the series artist while Iro is the writer. They like to remain anonymous, but there are a couple of fun facts about them out there. Apparently they met when they were in the same class in school. The anime. TBHK has some of the most beautiful art in manga, so you'd think the anime would be incredible too, but not really. The anime was created by Studio Lurch. They have done good animation in the past. I mean, they made Assassination Classroom look much better than it did in the manga. They also did Classroom of the Elite, Given, and Danganronpa? Which all look fine. I don't know what happened with TBHK, maybe they didn't have the budget or just cut corners, but it was pretty disappointing. They fixed it up a bit for the Blu-ray release and their adaptation of the side story looks good, so I still have hope for the future. The first season of the anime also cut out an important section of the manga. I'm definitely in the minority when I say this, but I always thought this was a good idea. They had 12 episodes and no idea if they were going to get a second season. I think it was smart of them to cut that bit out and tell a complete story instead. After School Hanako-Kun. This is a series of side stories for TBHK. They are canon and reveal little details about the TBHK world. It has a 4-episode animated adaptation with 4 more episodes releasing soon. Project Restart. In 2022, Crunchyroll released a very vague promotional video for TBHK Project Restart. Many people, myself included, thought it was going to be a complete reboot of the anime, but it was not. It was announcing the adaptation of After School and Season 2 of the main story. We now have a trailer for Season 2, which includes the arc that was cut out of the first season and a release date of January 2025. Tier 2. Spoilers from here on. Yashiro's lifespan. It feels so weird to me that anime only still don't know this, but Yashiro is fated to die before she turns 16. There have been many attempts to resolve this, including alternate universes, sacrificing people, and stopping time. But a concrete solution is still yet to be found. Amane. Hanako when he was a human. In the 50s, he was born with a heart defect that left him unable to go outside and was supposed to kill him. He was saved by some kind of god and made it to middle school. He was supposed to grow up and become a teacher, but somehow changed his fate, resulting in his death at 14. For unknown reasons, he then became a spirit that haunts a girl's bathroom. Tsukasa. Amane's twin brother. While Amane was sick, he would bring him presents from outside and try to cheer him up. When he found out Amane would probably die, he made a deal with the god thing to save him. The deal was likely at the cost of his own life or something similar. Tsukasa, or whatever was left of him, grew up with Amane until middle school when he died. Currently, he, or at least his image, is a spirit that haunts the school. The Minamotos. A clan of exorcists. Some in the family are born with the ability to see supernaturals and various powers to exercise them. Of those shown in the series, Teru is the strongest, wielding a sword and lightning. He takes on exorcism jobs at night and keeps the school in order during the day. Ko is much weaker comparatively, using a staff instead. They also have a little sister, Tiara. The sibling's mother passed away right after Tiara was born. The family itself has centuries of history dealing with supernaturals, including the school mysteries featured in the series. Tier 3. The twins' deaths. When they were in middle school, Amane killed Tsukasa with a knife. Amane died soon after, the cause of that is still unknown. Why exactly he did this is still a mystery, but considering the guilt he feels over this, it's likely he didn't want to kill his brother, and possibly only did it because of the thing possessing Tsukasa. It's also heavily implied that Tsukasa was abusing Amane. Their parents also died around the same time, but it's unclear if they were also killed by Amane or not. Ko's earrings. Ko wears a talisman for traffic safety as an earring. It's probably a pun based on his name, as the Japanese word for traffic is koutsu, but it's a sad coincidence I'll get to later. Hanako's seal. Hanako has a white seal on his face. This seal was supposedly put there by Ko's grandma. Apparently she used all her strength to seal away Hanako's evil powers. This raises questions about how much power Hanako actually has. I mean, he has to be the leader of the 7 mysteries for a reason, right? He's even beating out literal gods of time. Human Yorishiros. A Yorishiro is something a school mystery has a strong attachment to and is the source of their power. They can be objects like the moon rock or key, but they can also be living or technically living things. Tsukasa is Hanako's Yorishiro, but he's a spirit. Sumire is number 6's, but she's a human. The Tsukasa gang wanted Mitsuba to create his own Yorishiro, but he never did. He doesn't have any memories from his life as a human, so wouldn't the thing he has the deepest connection to just be Ko? Tier 4. Tiara's powers. Tiara is the youngest of the Minamoto siblings, but has the strongest spiritual power of them all. It's said that she's already stronger than Teru, so imagine when she gets some actual training. No wonder they call her princess. The pilot. The pilot is the original 3-chapter pitch for the TBHK series. It's pretty different from what we have now. Ko's from the Adashino clan, the characters' personalities are all a bit different and it starts out a lot darker than the series we know. Also in the pilot, Teru doesn't exist, and instead Yashiro is in love with a black-haired guy. He actually shows up again in chapter 115, The Red Books. According to the rumor, in the 4 o'clock library there are 3 different coloured books. White for living people, black for dead people, and red ones that you must never read. However, when the gang actually goes to the library, there are no red books. Instead, there are red pages in every book which separate the past and future. After reading the future, the book then turns red. The rumor should be something like you shouldn't read about the future, but it's not. Why the rumor is wrong is still unclear. Hanako of the Opera. This was an interactive event Ida Iro hosted on Twitter in 2020. The opera's most popular singer Mitsuba had lost his voice. It was rumored that he was poisoned and we needed to figure out why and who did it. Through polls on Twitter, fans were able to make choices guiding their investigation. In the end, it was voted that the Phantom of the Opera, Hanako, was the criminal. He admitted to it and disappeared into the night. In the epilogue, it's revealed that we got it wrong, and it was actually Ko who did it. He wanted to get another singer, Yashiro, into the spotlight, so he poisoned Mitsuba. The everywhere and nowhere. A place between places that has doors to an infinite number of locations, including those in the past and future. This is one of many super overpowered things that get mentioned in TBHK once and then never brought up again. Mitsuba's death. For his mum's birthday, he wanted to make her a curry. However, they didn't have any potatoes at home, so he ran to the store to get some. On the way, he was hit and killed in a traffic accident. We can actually tell the accident was a brutal one because of his appearance when we first see him. He's missing an arm, a chunk of his head, and is covered in blood. With that context, Ko's earring just seems straight up insensitive. Tier 5. Money, Maidens, Love, and Innocence. A one-shot set in the same world as TBHK. It's not about anything supernatural, and I wouldn't even say it was related to TBHK if it wasn't for the fact Akane appears in it. It's set a year after the current plot of TBHK, as Akane is now a second year and Teru has been replaced by a guy called Hattori. The story follows Hattori being confessed to by an underclassman, except this girl seems a lot more interested in his money than him. One day, he overhears a conversation she has with some other girls. It turns out the money thing is a lie because she's embarrassed and she does actually love him. The Red House. A ruined house somewhere in town formerly owned by the Yugi family. There's infinite rooms and includes wonderful features like creepy dolls, portals to nowhere, and an old sacrificial pit in the basement. Buy it now and you can be roommates with some old demonic god thing and a ghost child. The house was built on the site that was once used as a place to present human sacrifices, namely the Akane family, to a god. Many years later, when the house was built on the site, Tsukasa managed to make a deal with the god to grant him a wish, to save Amane. It's likely the price of this deal was the possession of his body, which is how he ended up with child Tsukasa stuck in the house and not Tsukasa tormenting everyone at the school. At the time of recording, no one has entered the house in the new present yet, but I can only assume it will be equally, if not more, horrifying. The real Hanako. Hanako is based on the real Japanese urban legend Hanako of the Toilet. According to legend, Hanako is a young girl with a bob and a red dress who haunts the bathroom. To summon Hanako, you have to knock 3 times on the 3rd stall in the girls' bathroom on the 3rd floor of the school. Hanako will answer, and depending on your luck, I guess, you may experience anything from seeing the ghost to being pulled into the toilet and eaten. There are many different versions of Hanako's backstory, but the most popular includes someone who was killed during World War II in an airstrike while hiding in the bathroom, someone who committed, and someone who was murdered by an abusive parent. Dear My Living Dead. This is a one-shot created by Ida Iro. It's not related to TBHK at all. Well, aside from the couple that look a lot like Akane and Aoi, but it's included in TBHK Volume 0. In this world, plants have come alive and started attacking people. Necromancers, young people who for a certain period of time are able to fight the monsters, are collected by the church and used to fight. We follow a pair of necromancers, Lily and Karuto, who are very close. Karuto's dad killed his mum because he loved her and couldn't stand the thought of her being with someone else. Karuto tries to deny his similarities to his dad, but he's unable to deal with the idea of being separated from Lily when they age out of the church. So he kills her and resurrects her using one of the living plants so they can be together forever. The meaning of Jibaku. It doesn't actually translate to toilet. Jibaku is a word for a ghost that is bound to a specific location, usually that of which their death occurred or they have a lot of resentment for. A more direct translation of the title would be Earthbound Boy Hanako-Kun, but that doesn't really make sense, so I can see why they changed it up. But the Japanese title leaves room for interpretation, as it's not specifically talking about the school's bathroom. Tier 6. Minamoto no Yorimitsu, a Japanese historical figure. He was a samurai who would take on dangerous and violent jobs for the clan he worked for. Legend says he also fought demons. In TBHK, he is canonically an ancestor of Ko and Teru, 2 and 5's names. Yako and Tsuchigo Mori's names are both references to the Japanese legends they are based on. A Yako is a spirit of a fox that can possess people and animals. They are considered mischievous and aren't regarded as divine beings like other fox spirits. There are accounts of Yako disguising themselves as beautiful human women to marry unsuspecting men. Tsuchigo Mori's name is a pun of the number 5 and the yokai the Tsuchigumo. They are a type of spider yokai that are literally just giant spiders that live underground. Legend says that there was once one that was 60 meters long and was slain by none other than Minamoto no Yorimitsu. Yashiro can time travel. Okay, she can time travel is a bit of an overstatement, but she seems very susceptible to being accidentally transported back in time a lot. In the Everywhere and Nowhere, out of an infinite number of possible locations, she ends up in 1969 and meets Amane. In chapter 38, she gets trampled by a cow and is somehow thrown back in time to meet child Amane. In chapter 102, when time becomes unstable at the festival, she is pulled back to the 60s again and meets Tsukasa. And in chapter 115, she wanders into a science prep room and gets pulled into the 80s to meet an older Amane. I'm sure there's some explanation for this, like how the contract she made with Hanako tied their fates together or something, but nonetheless, whatever Yashiro is doing to end up in these places is very convenient for the story. Taka Sabune. In chapter 41, we see Amane reading a book titled Taka Sabune. It's a real book written by Mori Ogai. I thought I was free from this, no! The book is about a criminal being transported to begin his exile. The worker transporting him asks what he did to end up here. The criminal and his brother were orphans and grew up very poor. They would both work to survive, but one day his brother became sick, unable to work, forcing the criminal to take on twice as much. He returns home one day finding his brother has tried to end himself, but the blade became stuck in his neck. The brother begs for him to finish him off. He doesn't want to and says they could find a doctor, but eventually concedes and pulls the blade from his neck. Someone walks in on him doing this and he gets charged with the murder of his brother. The story itself parallels that of the Yugi twins. Amane supposedly killed Tsukasa, but we still don't know the full story. Amane still feels very guilty about what he did, even 50 plus years later. I wouldn't be surprised if he did it to try and help Tsukasa, or at Tsukasa's own request in some way. Tier 7. All theories to finish off. Sakura is a god. There is very little information on Sakura. We know that she is over 100 years old, is trapped in the school, and is the one who assigned the 7 mysteries their positions. She's also made some kind of deal with Tsukasa to help her achieve a wish of going outside. None of that sounds very human of her, but she isn't dead. As we know, dead people aren't able to affect rumors, and yet we see her do that. When presented with the possibility of everyone living, dead, and supernatural disappearing forever, she isn't concerned at all. The only thing outside of all those would be a god. Assuming that Tsukasa is indeed possessed by the whole god from the Red House, we have proof that a god needs some kind of vessel to be able to leave the place they're bound to. The god thing would also explain why it's possible for her to be the one to create the school mysteries, not the original timeline. I think I might just have link click brain rot, but what if the timeline we started out in was never the original timeline to begin with? We know that alternate timelines are very much a real thing in TBHK. In our original timeline, Hanako managed to alter his fate by dying earlier than he should have. Tsuchigo Mori says this is the only time he's ever seen someone manage to change their fate. It hasn't been explained how this is possible yet, but surely he would need the help of some powerful supernatural being. Yashiro's time travel antics also affected the timeline. We can see that her meeting child Amane actually altered the wish he wrote, so who knows what her other visits could have changed. So if fate in the past was altered, then everything from that moment to now was never meant to actually happen. Once fate is altered, everything from that moment could have never been meant to happen. Maybe the new present we are in is actually closer to or even is the original timeline. The 8th mystery. This is entirely based off one line from the TBHK opening song that brings up the existence of an 8th school mystery. There are a lot of theories on who or what the 8th mystery could be. One popular idea is God. There's also the theory that Yashiro will become the 8th school mystery. Her Her name includes the Japanese character for 8, and wordplay names is used quite a bit in the series. She's deeply connected to the far shore, and like Mitsuba, would likely end up as a spirit at the school if she were to die. Tsuchigo Mori can solve everything. I've made a video explaining this fully, but essentially it was revealed all the way back in Volume 3 that Tsuchigo Mori has the power to alter time once, and it has never been brought up again. Not only that, but he also has books that have all the information about every single person, both past and future. But that has also not been brought up again. With all this, Tsuchigo Mori should know exactly why everything is happening and what will happen in the future, and exactly what he can do to save everyone. He did also say that using his power to change something will erase his existence, but sometimes sacrifices have to be made. At this point, I'm 90% sure Ida just forgot about this, but I am still holding on to hope that he will eventually use it, and it's gonna make for an amazing, horribly tragic moment, but he will save everyone and he will be super important. A tragic ending. Ida Iro is no stranger to a tragic or bittersweet ending. I wouldn't be surprised if TBHK got the same treatment. If you can come up with an idea for a happy ending for TBHK, leave it in the comments because I'm actually curious. But the way I see it is there's no possible way the series can have a completely happy ending. Because either Hanako ends up getting to live out his life like in the new present and him and Yashiro never meet, or Hanako still ends up as a school mystery but Yashiro ends up surviving and grows up, or they both die and become school mysteries and get to stay together. The happiest option would be both Hanako and Yashiro get to live out their full lifespans as normal humans, but that's still very bittersweet, as that would mean they never even meet. And on that incredibly positive note, I'll end the video. Thank you for your time.